this is Emma, sitting in my studio waiting for you. What kept you, hey? I hope you've had a nice creative week, whatever you've been doing. I hope it's been peaceful for you. Maybe you've had some lovely weather like we're having at the moment. It's very beautiful out there. It's all frosty and sunny. So if I get a lot of sunlight glinting on my glasses, that's why. It's a beautiful morning. So welcome back to my studio. Welcome, a very warm welcome if it's your first time here. My name's Emma and I'm an artist, a textile artist working here in Cumbria. I say working, I call it playing. I have to say I'm very privileged that I get to play in this beautiful room with all these lovely things around me, and even more I get the privilege of doing these videos for you and getting lovely feedback and just really enjoying the process. And I love it that if anybody's getting inspired by what I do, honestly, that just warms the cockles of my heart so much. It's lovely to be here. And today, as promised, we're going to get into this here sketchbook. I'm not even going to show you any of the white pages because we'll be looking at them in detail shortly. I've got my bits of paper. If you watched my last video, I've got all my lovely crinkly papers and bits of lace and all sorts of things, fun things to play with. My main intention of this, really, for me personally, it's procrastination in a way. I've got some projects I need to get working on. I've got an exhibition coming up and it's kind of tantalising there on the horizon. It's always a bit scary because I never quite know what I'm going to be doing, and I do find that working in a sketchbook like this really kind of helps me, if only to show me the ideas that I don't want to use, and it kind of buys me some time as well. I get to kind of ferment ideas while I'm going through the process of doing the project book, and it's never finished. It's something that they sit on my shelves and I can always go back to them. They're a really useful reference thing if you're stuck, and you know, they're just something wonderful to play with that isn't fabric, because I think it's quite good to get out of your usual way of doing things, perhaps go into something that's maybe a little bit more scary for you. Because I'm not a painter. I do dabble a little bit in watercolours, I do drawing, but I never call myself that kind of an artist, if you like. I love my fabric so much that I would never be a painter, basically. But I find this as a process, it's a really good way of pulling my ideas together and seeing what direction I might like to go in. So I think the best thing to do is to just get on and show you what I mean by playing in your sketchbook. Okay, so I have got here my stash of acrylic paints. I've actually just had to water some of them down a bit because I haven't used them for a while. So do be aware that if you've got things like this in tubes, that you maybe sometimes have to add a bit of water into them. What I've done with my sketchbook is I've taken out the pages like I showed you in my last video, just by cutting them out, and what I do is I make a big stash of them, because I know once I start printing I will print onto a page, and I know for a fact, because I've done it before, that I'll want to print off that page quite often as well onto a second page, which I'll show you. I've got some nice brushes. I've got some very funny old brushes. Some of these I think my daughter had when she was little, but it's a great brush. It's just perfect for sloshing paint around, and best thing is to get going. Now what I do to start me off, it's very, I also keep it simple, so I'm going to show you this. This is a piece of Perspex, which as you can see is a nice surface for putting paint onto. You could also use things like, I've got like a plastic wallet or something like that. That makes a good surface just to put your paint onto as well. And as long as you wash them afterwards. This is beautifully washed, as you can see. So I've chosen some sort of fairly, I don't know what colours these are. These are just what spoke to me today. They're quite soft, neutralish. Ooh, I've just put some water in this, so probably it's going to go everywhere. It's quite wet already, so I won't need to add any more water to it. Ooh. And I'm just going to simply spread this around on here. Having said that, I think I might need a bit more water in there. Honestly, it's just like being back at junior school, infant school, whatever. Just, put all your inhibitions and rules to one side, all your thoughts of how anything should look to one side, and just simply play with the paint. It's lovely. You can make, you can make lovely, lovely patterns on here. And depending on what you're using, you can maybe draw some You know, you could draw some gaps in here. It depends. It's very... what am I trying to say here? There are no rules with this, guys. You just have to play and see what works for you on the day, because depending on how wet your paint is, depending on, you know, what tools you use, as to what result you get. But I find this is a very nice, quick and easy way of getting my pages, well, I heard somebody call it activated the other day, but that's a bit too active for me. I just feel as though it's starting off a process that you can then take wherever you want to take it. So that's quite nice. That's given me sort of a nice background, and I can print on top of that, I can draw on top of that, and I can stick things on top of it. I'm going to see, I might just get a little bit more off that, or I might not. I think it's quite dry, so I'm thinking I might not get anything off, but let's have a look and see. I think playing in your sketchbook, just like playing with your fabrics, is about it's about being curious and just saying, well, what if I did this? What if I tried that? Now you see that's very pale and faint, but it's got its own character. It's got some really nice marks that it's made there. I think that's quite nice in its own right. So I've created two completely different pages, and I can add anything on there that I want to, and that's been a bit of fun with that colour. What I'll do is I will dry them off, and then I'll print on the other side as well. Okay, so that's just a really basic way of getting you going like that. Let's have a different colour in with that, and see what happens with this. Ooh, this is a gorgeous colour, isn't it? It's like mulberry crushed. And I've got a clean brush. I want to keep that one for the grey just for now, in case I go back to it. But important not to let that dry out, obviously. Obviously, I'm keeping my eye on it. Close eye. I just love doing this because it's so different to playing with the fabrics. I'm not controlling anything. It's all about happy accidents. You know, I don't know what's going to happen when I put the paper on here, because I don't know, you know, the wetness of it and how the paper's going to absorb it, depending on what paper you use. I'll tell you what I would really like to do with this is, I have here a page that I've already stuck some brown paper on, so that's quite nice and wrinkled. And I'm just thinking what I'd like to do is, just thinking off the top of my head here, it's popped into my head, I've got some, let's have a clean piece of bubble wrap. Okay, I'm just going to put some bubble wrap on here. And there's two ways, there's always sort of two ways of doing this. You can, oh sorry, that's a message coming in, incoming, because I've turned my phone off. So you can either print with that, which I will do actually onto a white piece. Let's print with that onto the white piece. And it's quite nice if it doesn't all come out perfect. I think it's rather nice, and you can print, you know, more than once on top of anything that you produce. In fact, I'm just thinking I'd quite like to put a little bit. You see, this is how your ideas develop. Once you start, thoughts will just pop into your head and you'll go, ooh, what if I put that on there? Now you see that's changed that surface. Again, it's given it much more interest here, and I can still do drawing and writing on top of that. And I love that. I love the grey with that sort of mulberry colour. Now, who knew I was going to do that? I certainly didn't. I didn't plan it. It's about sort of just playing and responding to what comes up. Now again, you can take this is my Perspex, it's still quite wet. You could take it and put it over like that, or you can take your sheet of paper and put that on top of there. I quite like doing that because I feel as though that's better, because you can actually then rub your hands over the back and you can really press that paper down onto the surface. So that's generally speaking what I would do. Get that off. There you go. Now that's quite blodgy down here. You might think that's not great, but I think it's done some nice things up here, and it's also picked out some of the sort of creases in the paper, and it's stopped it being a blank sheet. I know it was brown paper, and therefore that was quite interesting in itself, but it's now got a totally different look to it. And again, I can be adding things onto that. It's just a starting point, this, you know, it's playing until you're happy with all your pages. Let's just see, do you think we'll get another one off that one? Let's just see what we get. pop that on there. Oh, I get into quite a frenzy doing this, I have to say. This is why you have to have lots of sheets of paper ready, because there's nothing more frustrating than having some paint ready to go and you haven't got a page. You see, look, that's completely different again. It's gone a little bit like this grey one here. It's very soft, it's very sort of knocked back. It's not as prominent as some of the other prints, but again, that's really lovely, very delicate. I like that very much. So you see, you're getting different things depending on what you're doing. So I think the other thing we'll do, let's have, ooh, do I want a background? I'm just going to stick that to one side for a moment, because actually what I want to ink up is a bit of corrugated cardboard, but not this piece. Just bear with me and I'll get another piece. Okay, so I'm going to paint this one with the grey. Just a nice clean piece of corrugated cardboard. How wide does it need to be? I think we'll just tear that down there. There's a lot of rustling going on here. Just going to tear that off because it's a bit too wide. And again, I mean, you could be tearing this into shapes, you could be tearing it down that way, you can just use that, or I'm going to use a nice long piece here. And I'm going to find my paint. I'm going to put the paint on here, hopefully. Yes, we'll get some out. There we go. So this is why I kept that brush, you see, because I'm going to actually now brush this onto here. Maybe put a little bit of water with that, just so it's got enough to... It's hard not to do this fast, to be honest, because... Oh, look, I'm getting brush marks off that. Oh, that's quite nice. It's hard not to do this fast because I get really excited and I just want to print everything. It's such a joy to do this because it always surprises me. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a long number of years now, and every time I come back to my sketchbook and play like this, it just always surprises me. So you could do that as many times as you like, and obviously you could take that and do it across that way, so I might just do a little bit of that. You don't have to do it on the whole piece, you could just do little bits, get a bit of cross hatching going on. Now, isn't that gorgeous? That's like tartan. I'm feeling quite tweedy looking at that. I'm feeling like, ooh. So, you know, all sorts of different things going on here. So I think we'll do a bit more on here with something else that I've got up my sleeve, so to speak. This is why you need to keep all your rubbish, all your, I don't know, your bits of paper that come in the post, things that you think are just rubbish, wrapping paper and cardboard, packaging. It's just all grist to the mill here. You can make it into art and it gives it another purpose. Right, what I've got now, rustle, is some of this yummy stuff. I'm going to just tear there. Because I'm just going to do like repeats with this, I don't mind what shape it is. Now again, we can do this onto there, and we'll see what that does. Maybe do it again. Sometimes it's quite nice if you do it again, because you're then not getting such a definite pattern. And I'm going to let that sit for a moment. And while this is just still like that, I mean, again, you could be tearing that up or cutting it up and sticking that in your book. Or why don't we try... Ooh! See, I've got these same pieces of paper and I've done different things with them down the years, but every time I do it, it's a surprise. I love that. And I'm not thinking to a theme here. I know I said my sketchbook was about autumn, but I'm not really thinking to a theme here. I'm just playing with the pages at the moment. Now, it's obviously not a very organic looking thing, that, but maybe I can print on top of that and see what else happens. I like these little squares that it's made down here. It's made little open squares, and then it's quite, I don't know, computery somehow, that one. So it's not very organic, but what we will do is we'll get another piece and we will pop it onto here. Now the other thing you can use is, if I can just find my tools over here. Here we go. Now I've got a couple of these which are quite useful. Again, this is a good way of getting a print off something, but you don't have to have this. You can just use your hands. They're perfectly adequate. Ooh, look at that. That's lush. And I like the way the little squares have almost become circles with little dots in. That's really rather nice. I like that. And again, I can take another one off that as well. So it's very economical with your paint. There you go. See if anything comes. Completely different again. No, I like that. Okay, so I'm just going to sort out a couple of other things to show you. I don't want to blind you with science because this can actually fry your brain if you do too much of it. You have to kind of set yourself a time limit, otherwise you'll spend all day and you'll go completely mad. I have to warn you. It's quite addictive. Okay, so I showed you this in my last video. I absolutely adore this. This was some packaging that came with something and I just love it. I mean, honestly, I could just sit and look at it for hours. I am completely mad, obviously. What I want to do is I'm going to paint it up a bit and I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use the purpley colour. Squidgy. Ooh, what a lovely sound. Squidgy squidge. I'm just going to paint some of this up, and now I'm doing it on top of the newspaper, and I'm doing this for a reason, okay, which I shall show you in a moment. So I'm just going to paint it rather. I don't mind if it doesn't get onto every single bit of it, because that doesn't really matter. I don't want anything perfect. I just want it to do what it's going to do. It's going to do its stuff. That's kind of flattened it a little bit, so I don't know what it's going to do. Now underneath, oh, it's a big splodge there, but it's made some nice marks down here on the paper, and I can keep that now and use that again. You know, that could become something in a book, possibly. You may look at it and think she's mad, what is she talking about? But honestly, I keep these little bits of newspaper that I've painted onto because they're awfully useful. I'm just going to put that down to cover it up though, because I don't want it on here, on my paper. We'll just pop that on there. Ooh, sorry, I've been waving that right round in front of your face. I'm sorry, not paying attention. I'm so excited, I'm not really paying attention to the filming bit of this. So I'm sorry about that. It may or may not do anything exciting. I don't know. Not really, not horribly exciting. I think it's partly because painting it has made it go a bit soft and flattened. But it's made some marks, that's okay. It's not a blank sheet of paper anymore, and it makes me think that maybe what I want to do with this is actually stitch it onto something and keep it with those lovely shapes. So anyway, you see, not everything works out how you think it's going to. I just say to you, start, have a go, get your paints out, use what you've got and see where it takes you. And I'll show you next time where this is going to take me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all your likes, and thank you for the lovely comments that you leave me and the questions and the feedback. I've had some absolutely terrific feedback lately, and it's just very heartwarming and makes me very happy. I'm just glad to be here with you, and I hope you'll have a lovely creative week. I'll see you again in my studio. Bye for now. Oh, and if your hands don't look like this by the time you're finished, you're not playing hard enough. I'm off to wash my hands. Ba ba da ba da ba da ba ba.